Yeah, feel this from the bottom of my heart, y'all. Truly inspired. Here we go. Come on, look. Yo, homie, I was taught by a Chicago teacher.
This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek in Pacifica. One of the issues of the attack by Israel on Gaza has been an outpouring of opposition in the United States to the war and to the bombing of the people of Gaza and Palestine. And it's led to people all over the country opposing that war and calling on Israel to stop the continued bombing. And it also has led to people speaking out and signing petitions around the country, healthcare workers, medical people, political people, saying that they're opposed to that. And one of the places that has taken place is in Alameda Health System, where one of the members of the Alameda Health System, who we're going to interview, Jennifer Esteen, did sign a petition calling for a ceasefire. So welcome to our show, Jennifer.
Thank
and
you so
also
much.
You're a nurse, a working nurse. Jennifer, why don't you talk about what happened to you and why that's important, not just to you, but working people and the labor movement?
Yeah, so it's incredibly important. As you laid out, we're seeing carnage like we've never seen before. And it's really unfortunate that our government is using our tax dollars to double down on the death and destruction of hospitals, schools, religious sites, factories that create food products, and infrastructure that delivers clean drinking water to the people of Gaza. It's really awful to know that our government is doing that. And it's even worse to have it like in front of us where we can see it every single day. So yes, I am a public health nurse and a psychiatric registered nurse. I am serving or had been serving on the Alameda Health System Board. Actually, I was appointed, not elected. The appointing body are the members of the county supervisors. Here in Alameda County, there's 5 people. And in my district, there's one person who's currently our supervisor, Nate Miley, that was in charge of appointing me. I served a 3-year term in various capacities. I'm the only nurse on the board. I'm the youngest person on the board. And I've been the secretary treasurer of the board for 2 years. I was the chair of the finance committee for a year. And most recently, I was serving as vice president of the board. Well, I'm also currently running for county supervisor in this district. And there's only 2 candidates in the race. The person who made the appointment, Nate Miley, and myself. And I made a ceasefire statement as a candidate, as a Black woman, as a Jewish person who is vehemently opposed to death and destruction and killing of children and bombing of hospitals. And 2 days after I made my statement, it became official that I was not going to be reappointed to the Board of Trustees. And it's really unfortunate. You know, I had been having conversations with some of the leaders of the board, some of my fellow trustees, and even the administrators at the health system about whether or not I would become president of the board in the next year. And we had had discussions about, you know, how the campaign might impact things if we needed to do some kind of someone else try for 3 months and then I step in for the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2024. I mean, we'd had real discussions about what it might look like for me to continue serving. But unfortunately, the current incumbent saw fit to not reappoint me.
And there has been debates at the Oakland Oakland Council, City Council. A lot of people have said that the city government and other government agencies should take a position. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors take a position. What's Nate Miley's position on the issue of the war? Is there
As
any
far as
record?
I know, I haven't seen a public position, which is unfortunate because when people are elected leaders, the word leader is what we expect. We expect people to be taking leadership roles. Whether you have governing authority over the federal spending is sometimes not relevant because you have influence. When you're an elected official, you partner with people at all levels of government. It's not uncommon. I mean, actually, the county government is a pass-through for federal funding. So it makes perfect sense that we would see our elected officials partnering with members of Congress, partnering with our US senators to make work happen, to get infrastructure, to get funding from the government, and vice versa. We're sending our tax dollars up to the federal government. We absolutely should be standing up and speaking out for what's right. That's what leadership looks like. And that's why I made a statement.
And the public healthcare system has been underfunded. People are struggling to get their health care. Israel has national health care. I don't know if people know that. Everyone gets health care in Israel, yet it seems in the United States, the right to health care is under threat, particularly for Black people, brown people, poor people in this country. Is that one of the reasons, along everything else, the humanitarian issue, that you've taken a stand? Because it seems like there's unlimited money for war, billions and billions of dollars, while our infrastructure, healthcare, and other areas are under stress.
Yeah, I think you put it very plainly. That's exactly right. Our federal government seems to have plenty of money for war. And locally, we seem to have plenty of money for the prison industrial complex and for our criminal legal system, but not nearly enough money for providing health care and mental health care. And, the Department of Justice actually has reprimanded our criminal legal system, our county jail, Santa Rita, and said that we are one of the deadliest in all of California, that we have also the largest mental health care provider in the county is the jail. That doesn't even make sense. And the part that really is so mind-boggling is that if you want mental health care in Alameda County and you call the access line or walk into a clinic today, you're going to have to wait between 6 and 8 months before you can see a provider. So, the way that we're currently funding things is like our priorities are kind of backwards.
And the same crisis was at Kaiser, where workers went out and strike because appointments were delayed. Some patients committed suicide as a result of not getting prompt care. I mean, this is a healthcare emergency.
Yeah.
And it seems like the priorities for our government, our national government, is not to take care of this crisis, although they talk about mental illness and the effect of that. Now, the other issue that I wanted to talk to you about is the struggle that took place at Alameda Health System over some of the previous leadership of the health system. And your election and part of the transformation was the struggle of the workers there that had about how it was operating. Why don't you talk about why there was a strike and what happened in the strike and what workers were fighting for when they were on strike at the health system?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point that you bring up. So the strike happened at the Alameda Health System 3 years ago. It was the heat of the pandemic. COVID was happening. We had workers who were complaining about poor facility infrastructure, broken sinks in the emergency room, inadequate services and staffing to keep things clean, emergency rooms that were left dirty after huge, it's our level 1 trauma center that the Alameda Health System runs. It's actually responsible for 4 county hospitals in Alameda County. The level 1 trauma center is called Highland. And at Highland Hospital, it was the home and the epicenter really for the COVID response. And people were getting sick, people were dying. The staff were really worried about keeping themselves safe so that they could continue to provide care. And there was this one incident that was really egregious. A staff person posted a picture of themselves on social media, and they had donned all sorts of garbage bags as protective gear. Now everybody knows the phrase PPE, the personal protective equipment. And garbage bags are not standard issue PPE. Every hospital is supposed to give staff one-time use gear that they can put on when they step into a contaminated space as a universal precaution. But our level 1 trauma center was ill-equipped, as far too many public health institutions were during COVID. And when that picture went on social media, it went viral, millions of people saw it, and that person was fired, unceremoniously fired as a retaliatory gesture. And it really galvanized the workers. So they organized really strongly. I happen to be a member of that union that led the strike, SEIU 1021. I work in San Francisco for the Department of Public Health. I don't work for the Alameda Health System, but I stood with them when they were trying to get justice and equipment and fair treatment and protection. Because when workers are safe, the people they serve are safe. And the strike ended up leading to the ouster of most of the executives at the hospital. The chief executive officer, the CEO, got the boot. The COO got the boot. The only 2 executives that stayed were the chief financial officer and the chief technology officer. Everybody else was gone. 80 different department level directors and managers fired. People quit in droves, and they even fired the board of trustees over the health system. And it was after that that I was brought in and I was made a part of the Health System Board to oversee operations. And it's a huge operation. Separate from the county, we have a $1.4 billion operating budget. And the day that I walked in there, I was nominated and appointed to be the chair of the finance committee. So people expected to have a different kind of transparency and accountability, and they put a union leader, registered nurse, young Black woman in charge of the health system's finances, because they know that nurses are trustworthy and nurses will do it better than anyone else, always with the health and safety of the people we serve in mind.
And of course, the issue of privatization of healthcare systems is a critical issue. I know that in San Francisco, Department of Public Health, there's outsourcing of all kinds of systems, nonprofits are sending out work, which is threatening really the ability to take care of the patients and have any oversight. Is that the same in dangers in Alameda County?
That's exactly right. You know, I mentioned the Santa Rita jail. Part of the issue around healthcare and health standards in our jail is that we have a private entity that is providing medical care in the jail. And that private entity is known for, around the country, they're known for substandard care. They're known for not having adequate staffing. They're known for not having adequate OSHA requirements being met. And it is unfortunate because the county just renewed the contract to these medical providers in a no bid process, $300+ million. And, you know, where I work in San Francisco, we are fortunate enough that the public health department is in charge of jail health. And we have not had any deaths in our jail, as far as I know, in the last 5 years. But in Alameda County at the Santa Rita jail, more than 73 people have died in custody since 2014. We are one of the deadliest jails in this nation, and that is awful. You know, there was a story of a man who died in 2001 in the jail, where the video footage was finally released to the public just a few months ago. This man's name was Maurice Monk. He was 45 years old, which, you know, once upon a time I thought 45 was old, but I'm 43. 45 is a young man, prime of his life. This man had hypertension and also schizophrenia. And because we don't have adequate services in our community, he was on the bus, had an outburst. The sheriffs picked him up and took him to the jail. And he was held for months without proper care. And what the video footage revealed is deputies walking past his cell day after day, meal trays stacked up all around the door, a jail medical staff, a nurse actually, throwing the meds through the food slot onto the floor. When they finally opened the door and checked on Maurice, he had been dead for days. That is abject neglect. And quickly, after the video was released, the county sheriffs settled with Maurice's family for $7 million. It's really a tragic loss of life that this poor man died, but it's also a travesty that we are paying $7 million after someone has died in our custody, instead of investing $7 million in care in the community where people can be kept healthy and whole and safe. And we could have saved his life if we had had care in the community. It's just a tragedy on all sides.
And of course, accountability. You have an appointed board, it could be elected. In fact, the healthcare system should have people who are elected in it, running it, instead of corporate executives or political appointees who represent the HMOs, who represent the hospitals. I mean, one of the issues now is that the people are being said, you're going to go into Kaiser, you're going to go into public health, and the privatization of the public health system. Are you concerned about that for the protection of public health in California and nationally?
Very much so. I'm very concerned about the privatization of our healthcare. I think, you know, it's beyond time for us to have a universal healthcare program in the states, and it's beyond time for us to have single payer. You know, we have to have some kind of nationalized health. When we get to that place, we will be much better off. But right now, there's so many layers of bureaucracy, layers of billing infrastructure, layers of erroneous needs for financing that we spend, you know, typically they say 6 to 1. You spend 6 times as much on the billing as you do on providing care. And if we could shift that, if we could take those 6 people and turn them actually into providers of care, we would never have a nursing shortage. We would never have a shortage of primary care providers. But, you know, this billing infrastructure is problematic. I absolutely am proud to be a public servant. You know, I've worked for the public health department my entire nursing career. And part of the reason that I am trying to reach a new level of county leadership and governance is because I want to make sure we are dedicated to the service that we are sworn to provide. You know, the county is responsible for providing public health care, mental health care, social services, housing and homelessness services, and the criminal legal system. When people look around and they see folks sleeping on the street or, you know, all these encampments that need to be cleaned up, and they wonder, well, who is responsible for this? Ultimately, in California, the county is responsible for it. And when the county isn't making sure people have safe places to go, to sleep, to bathe and shower, the county is falling down on its duty. And, you know, frankly, it's time for a change. We need some improvement. We need it today.
And another issue which is important to workers in San Francisco was COVID, because workers were, on the one hand, afraid of getting COVID. They weren't provided with proper PPE. There's shortage of PPE for healthcare workers. And at the same time, some workers were concerned about taking the vaccine, and that they had religious reasons or others for not taking it. And in San Francisco, I understand over 1,000 people were fired. How did the Alameda County deal with that? And were any workers fired for not taking the vaccine in Alameda County?
You know, when I was at the Alameda Health System, we got weekly updates about vaccine uptake, and we got to a place of 97% and higher of staff at the Alameda Health System that were willing to be vaccinated. And, you know, there were certain rounds of vaccines. I think that, you know, I believe in science. Florence Nightingale was a nurse more than 100 years ago who discovered that the best way to prevent infection was through simple act of soap and water. And from that, our public health science began to really blossom. And we understand that vaccines save lives. Smallpox killed millions around the world. The Spanish flu, 150 million people died. When we discovered vaccines like the vaccine for tetanus, for diphtheria, for pertussis, for rubella, we're talking about diseases people don't even know the names of anymore. They were eradicated because of vaccine science. Vaccines are not a problem. They actually save lives, but we had a lot of division being stoked by our then president. And it is unfortunate that people began to lose trust in the things that historically have saved us so much. You know, the influenza, right now we are experiencing a tough winter. The winter of 23 and 24 has been really, really rough. People are succumbing to RSV, COVID, flu, viruses they don't even have a name for. And that's the natural course of life. People get sick. But we save many thousands of lives every single year with the flu vaccine. And we also, before COVID, would lose tens of thousands of lives every year because people were not always vaccinated against the flu. Vaccines truly save lives.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us. And what can people do? I know that there are a lot of angry healthcare workers who want a nurse on the board, somebody who actually works in the healthcare area. And you're being removed by Nate Miley means there's no healthcare professional on a healthcare board that's in charge of healthcare. What should people do? And what should people do about holding him accountable? I know there's an election, and what are the issues you're raising in the election with him?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an election on March 5th. And because there's only two people in this race, it is a one and done, winner take all election. There will not be any runoff to November. March 5th is do or die. If we are satisfied with the way things are, then, you know, we should sit down and not vote. But if you want to see some change, if you want to see some energy and some leadership, I am absolutely running for Alameda County Supervisor and would love to have your vote. Nurses do it better. Nurses do it differently. Nurses are always concerned with the care of our community. And the four issues that I am absolutely here to serve are issues around housing, healthcare, jobs, and justice. And I will bring all of my energy, professional expertise, and acumen to doing this work. You know, I've been serving on the Alameda Health System Board. I've been serving on our unincorporated municipal advisory council as a council person and working full-time as a nurse all at the same time. Imagine having that amount of dedication leadership, and energy moving our county Board of Supervisors, it would be supercharged like never before.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for joining us. We've been talking with Jennifer Esteen and about her removal from Alameda Health System Board and the issues that she feels are critical for working people and the people of Alameda County and the people of this country as far as healthcare. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you all.